For the first time in a long time, it was actually my mom who introduced me to the fact that there was a new piece of media out there that I might enjoy, instead of the other way around. I've gotta say, I'm so glad you did. Mech Cadets is a relatively new Netflix series which dropped in August of 2023. It's based on a comic book series, which I will say right now I've not read, so I'm not in a place to comment on differences between the two. This will purely be about the show as its own entity. Its first, and currently only, season is just 10 episodes long, but they certainly leave an impact. I'd honestly highly recommend you go watch it. If not, spoilers inbound, I guess. There's actually two distinct things I want to talk about when it comes to this show, and while obviously one of them is going to be disability, I feel it's best to start with the other one, because it'll give us more of a baseline. Mech Cadets flat out refuses to write one-dimensional characters. The primary conceit of the show is this. Some time ago, the Earth experienced an attack by aliens known as the Sharg, a species of crab-like creatures that are definitely intelligent if what we see in the show is anything to go by, and seem to operate on a hive-based hierarchy. Earth didn't really have any answer to this attack until giant mechs called robos started falling from space and bonding with humans to fight back. This led to the establishment of Sky Corps, where kids train in hopes of being chosen when more robos arrive on Earth. The show starts with the arrival of 3 new robos. 2 of them arrive as intended and choose trainees Maya Sanchez and Frank Olivetti respectively. The third gets derailed by an attacking Sharg and ends up crash landing in the Arizona desert, where they just so happen to run across Stanford Yu, our main character. Stanford, you see, has just been kicked out of Sky Corps' engineering division for trying to sneak into the pilot exam without making it through basic training. Only to end up being chosen anyway because he decided to run his bike into a giant space crab and the giant space mech thought that was neat. The main point of the Sharg threat after that is that the species seems to be adapting and evolving to better combat human robo-resistance. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about the characters. Even the more uncontroversial, for lack of a better word, ones are the furthest thing from the one-dimensional good guys. Granted, that's definitely not unique to this show, but I still appreciate how they went about it. Stanford, our main character, has clear moments of weakness, times when he's understandably but still selfish, because he's human. Ava, his friend from engineering, has her whole character arc wrapped up in the ethics of her job and how far she would or would not go to gain her mother's approval. Her arc this season ends with her quitting her job because of the things she's discovered. She just can't co-sign all of it, and the parts she objects to are so heinous that she can't keep working there. Maya enrolled in this military program because she's an orphan with a younger brother to support, and this is the best option she has to improve their station in life and bring her brother to her. She's even somewhat hostile towards Stanford at first, but she warms to him pretty quickly once she takes the time to process and actually gets to know him. Frank put his own comfort aside to follow in his mother's footsteps and be a pilot. But more on him in another video. But who I'd really like to direct your attention towards is Olivia Park. She is the daughter of General Aiden Park, the head honcho at Skycore Academy, and top of her class. However, and this isn't fully confirmed, but I do believe it to be true, her poor sportsmanship during the pilot exam leads to neither of the two robos who arrived as expected choosing her. When we first meet Olivia, it's as the daughter of a father with truly exacting standards. She's tense, angry, and ready to snap at anyone and anything that could get in her way. This setup is familiar. Olivia is the archetypical jealous classmate who failed when they didn't expect to, and ends up spiraling into a self and generally destructive path because of it. Except she doesn't. She's furious when she finds out that Stanford, as she sees it, lucked into a position as a Mech Cadet when she's been working for it her whole life, which is understandable. However, she does not seek revenge on him, or to steal his spot. Once she's calmed down, she simply decides she'll stay in the cadet program, no matter how slim her chances are of actually becoming a pilot. However, no matter how actually skilled she is, there is no getting away from the fact that she is also a Nepo baby. Her father decides that, since she's not giving this up, he's going to place her in a new prototype. The Hero Force 1, an artificial robo he's been working on behind the scenes. She gets her spot on the team because Daddy built her own mech, essentially. The other characters may joke about it, but that is what happened. Sure, the Hero Force would have been deployed eventually, but the only reason Olivia specifically got it is because her dad's the general. Ergo, Nepo baby. Now, at this point, if the show were following conventions, we'd be expecting Olivia to butt heads with Stanford and go about trying to make his life hell, to be the mean girl, essentially. Instead, after their very first training session together, she actually compliments him, acknowledges that his tactics were sound, and even in line with what she herself was considering.
I was thinking a decoy plan too.
This moment right here, this is the moment my ears perked up and I began to fall in love with her character. That's not nearly all, though, because, as it turns out, what powers the Hero Force mechs are the cores of real robos. Real robos who had to be murdered, and yes, I do mean murdered because, again, these are not just machines, to have those cores extracted. It is, quite frankly, horrific. When this is discovered, it's Stanford and Ava who actually bring it to Olivia. Her first instinct, as always, is to become angry. She's angry that they'd accuse her father of something like that, but at this point, Stanford is her friend, and she has to know. So she goes to her father, and he confirms for her that yes, he did kill Veritas for their core. Olivia is naturally horrified. Here is another spot where her character could branch. She could fall in lockstep behind her father, quell her horror, and suffocate her humanity in the name of her ambition. She doesn't do that. In fact, I view quite a lot of what she does during the tail end of the season as a desperate attempt to make her father's sins mean something. Make the death that powers her mech worth anything at all. She's borderline suicidal in her recklessness, flying alone into space in an untested mech to stand against a threat the like of which her species has never seen before. In the end, rather than let Captain Tanaka, her uncle who is partnered with a real robo, take the fall in their final stand against the Sharg Queen, Olivia sacrifices herself. the team makes a truly reckless plan to create a small temporary black hole and draw the Queen into it, but someone will have to push her in. Tanaka's original plan is for that to be himself, because he's the adult here and the rest are still just cadets. But Tombo's thrusters fail, and the team pulls him out. And Olivia decides she's gonna do it instead. There was no guarantee she'd survive this. In fact, it was pretty damn likely she wouldn't. She does survive and ends up somewhere else, but she went into that fully expecting to die. Her team, however, also don't believe she's dead, so they set off with Captain Tanaka and General Park to look for her, setting up the probable storyline for a second season. So let's actually talk about General Park and how, while he's certainly the most morally bankrupt character in this series so far, he's also not the one-dimensional hate-sink the show could have made him. Aiden Park is a man with exacting standards. He loves his daughter, but he also demands perfection from her. Somewhere along the line, some disastrous miscommunication between them ended up with Olivia under the assumption that she had to become a pilot. That was what he expected of her. In actuality, General Park never wanted his daughter anywhere near the Robos, if his words are to be believed, but as I said, he demands perfection. So at some point, he got the understanding that she wanted to be a pilot and then decided she would be the best, despite his own misgivings. I feel the need to point out that his daughter would probably not be lost in space right now and definitely wouldn't have grown up feeling stifled and forced onto one track if he'd just had an open and honest conversation with her about any of this at any point. Supported her interests changing and developing and let her fail once in a while, perhaps? Aside from being a mediocre parent at best, General Park is also, as I've said a couple times now, a murderer. He's confirmed to have killed one Robo, Veritas, and implied to have killed more in the name of his Hero Force project. It's for the greater good, he tells himself. If this works, I don't have to send more kids off to die. It's a noble goal on its face, and his pain is understandable, but as a general rule of thumb, whenever you start thinking about your actions in terms of for the greater good, take several steps back and reevaluate. General Park either has always seen the Robos as expendable and lesser than, or he's forced himself into that mindset to justify his actions. Either way, the end result is the same. Sapient creatures being treated like tools, to be used, picked apart, reprogrammed, and discarded when they've outlived their usefulness. It's horrifying, it's barbaric, it's for the good of all humanity. He's not a good person, but he is a damn good character. And finally, to bring a little bit of levity to the end of this otherwise pretty serious video, we have Adam Williams. Adam is a character who is introduced as Stanford's replacement for the brief moment in time when Stanford was expelled. When he first arrived on scene, he was obnoxious, rude, and nearly an accomplice to stealing Buddy's free will. In short, he was exactly the kind of character we are primed to loathe. And for a while, I thought this series had actually given us a pure hate sink. Except he's not. I mean, don't get me wrong, he is obnoxious. The team even bond over making fun of him, and he kind of deserves it. He's brash, cocky, and if I have to hear him say bro one more time, I will actually defenestrate my laptop. But he's not without honor. He takes his failures in stride and never once seems resentful of Stanford. when it actually matters, he steps up and offers to pull a risky stunt to save the campus, even though he's already injured. To my absolute shock, by the end of the season, he'd managed to scrape together something resembling an obnoxious kind of charm. I'm not likely to forget how gung-ho he was about the idea of piloting a robo who'd had their bond with their true pilot forcibly overridden, but like I've said, he somehow, miraculously, ended up not being the total hate sink I expected. There just isn't one in this series. Not even Chief Clark, the head of the engineering team for Hero Force, is a hate sink. He's a detestable character, sure, but there's more to him than just being someone for the audience to hate. And at the end of the season, he even pulls through at the last second with a honestly good idea, despite being a coward who is drunk on his own power for most of the rest of the season. And it actually feels believable. Honestly, I think that speaks to the quality of the writing. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, consider liking it and maybe subscribing. A massive thank you to the Entmoot, Pastel Pink Firefox, and Ronja Adams Ramstedt. I will be back here Thursday after next. Bye!